everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you've not been here before, my name is Camilla, and on Hasty Books I talk about, you guessed it right, books. And today's video I'm diving into my April reading list. So I'm doing a wrap up of all the books that I've read, those I liked and those I didn't like so much. So let's dive right in. So in April I read 13 books, which was so much more than I expected, and I was really happy with that. All of those were written by women, which was by accident. But I am kind of naturally drawn to female writers. And of those 13, I listened to 8 audiobooks, so I guess I didn't read as much as you think. I did listen as much as I had free time, so that's why I did 8 audiobooks and then 5 physical or e-books. My first book of April was Feminism, Notes from the Woman That a Movement Forgot by Mikki Kendall. And it was read by the author herself, which was, even better. Feminism is a series of essays about, basically, like the title said, from the women and the people that white feminism has kind of left behind, ignored purposefully or not. And yeah, it was really eye-opening. I found it is a bit obviously centric to the US, and that's normal because that's where Kendall lives, but I think loads of it has reflections all over the world. I know she talks a lot about healthcare, and while I'm from a country and live in a country that have free healthcare, I still think there are instances of people of color, people from indigenous backgrounds who aren't believed, who aren't trusted with their own, bodily autonomy. And I think it's good to be aware of those things when we try to, be an activist. I think it's good to include everyone. I think this book really opened my eyes to that, and I think it has become a really important book for me that will stay on my feminist reading list. Then we followed this with Jane Austen. So I am, as you may know, in my journey of reading through all of the Jane Austen novels, and in April I went through Pride and Prejudice and Northanger Abbey. So I didn't read them back to back, but we'll look into them for the same time. Pride and Prejudice is a classic, obviously. I feel like everyone knows it. If you've not read it, you've seen the movie, and it is exceptional. I really love it. It still holds its place for me. I kind of wish I could re-experience it without any feelings or kind of background, because I do feel like sometimes, like the emotion of, when I was a teenager and I first watched a movie and read the book, I feel like that kind of taints my view of it now. So that's one book I'd like to maybe re-experience. But I did absolutely love Northanger Abbey. I expect it to be boring, maybe it's because of the name. But I think it's kind of in my top 3 right now, definitely maybe even top 2 or tied in top 1. So I really loved it. I think it has quite a good series of up and down of misfortune and misunderstandings, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. It really surprised me, so potentially there's that element. But yeah, so more on that when I do my Jane Austen video. Then I listened to Death on the Nile by Agatha Christie. I didn't know what to expect, because I feel like I knew that there was basically people on a boat and someone dies, gets murdered. That's kind of what the title says. Realized I'd never really known anything else about it. So it was really interesting to kind of go through the story, not realizing that the murder basically happens only halfway through the book. So that's really interesting. And it was very well-constructed plot, I found. It's kind of weaving with little details and clues. So I really liked it. A note that I had was that obviously it was written I think in the early 1900s, and the actor who was doing the voices was really good. All the characters had different, accents, and yeah, the way that they were talking, you could tell which, the different characters, which was great in an audiobook. But some of the accents he made felt a bit racist to me, especially the Asian and Egyptian characters. That felt really on the line for me, and I don't know if that's a choice of the production or if that's basically the way it was written in the book. So I kind of want to pick up a copy just to see how that's portrayed, because I found that a bit offensive, I'm not gonna lie. But generally I did like the intrigue. I like Hercule Poirot. yeah, it was nice. I think I would read other Christie, but I don't think it would be a priority. Yeah. I followed this up with a Quebec audiobook, and that's not translated. It wasn't very good, so I will bypass that, but that was in my list. Then next we have Autumn by Ali Smith. So this was my first Smith, which was a bit shocking to me. I've taken so long to get to it, but I'm really happy. I kind of googled where to start because this is part of the seasonal quartet. So obviously there's autumn, winter, spring and summer. So you have to start technically with autumn apparently. The beginning was a bit confusing, but until I got into the story, and then it got really good. It is a very of the moment book, so it's based sort of around the 2016 EU referendum in the UK, so it's a bit politics, but it was, yeah, very of the moment. Some of the stuff that she touched on, I felt they were very relatable because of that, because we're living through this right now. And it was really nice. I really loved there's kind of two main characters, this older man and this younger woman, and we kind of see her while she's really young and when she's a young adult, or, you know, kind of my age, I guess. And yeah, I really like their relationship and the way that built, and weaving into that kind of feminism and art and the meaning of that because through life. So I thought it was really beautiful. I do look forward to reading the other ones. I will definitely continue. If you're trying to stay away from, especially if you're in Britain, if you're trying to stay away from the political, I would not recommend it, but I think it's a good one to pick up for like kind of like a current affairs and really nice storyline. Then I listened to I Captured the Castle by Dodie Smith. This one I think it was a bit of cheating because it was actually a BBC like adapted audio play, so it was for the radio. Yeah, so I think it was maybe a bit shorter than it should have been, but I don't care too much. So I had watched this movie a couple years ago, I think, and I hadn't thought it was very good. So I picked up the book because a friend of mine kind of loved it. So I thought, oh, I'll give it a try. Maybe the book is better. Also listening to the audiobook, I guess I felt very similar to the actual movie that I watched, but I still found it very insipid. The character relationships were really bizarre to me. I didn't really see their kind of arc. Maybe that's because that's not the book. Maybe if I read the book there'd be more of that, but because it seems to be in the perspective of one of the daughters of the family that lives in this castle, and she's trying to, you know, take a capturing of life in the castle. But yeah, I didn't really enjoy it. Maybe I would have enjoyed it when I was little, because it does feel like more of a young adult middle grade book kind of. So yeah, didn't really enjoy it. I don't see what the attraction is. And yeah, I did like the ending, which is a bit open and kind of hopeful but not really. So I think that was really nice, but the rest of it I just didn't care that much for the characters. The last audiobook I listened to in April was Islands of Decolonial Love by Leanne Simpson. I've left the middle name because I don't want to mispronounce it, I'm sorry. So this is a series of short stories and kind of songs about the lives of contemporary Indigenous people and their communities. I think it's mostly in Canada, so it's a Canadian book. And I thought it was really beautiful, and I've been trying to listen to more and read more stuff by Indigenous people, especially from the communities in Canada, because I'm from there and I feel like I want to learn more. And this one was a really difficult, the actor did an amazing job, but I found it really difficult to listen to, especially if you're doing something else, like even just cooking or something. I still find it very difficult to follow, and there weren't like breaks in the audiobook, so it was just one long like 3-hour audiobook. So I tried to find times where I could stop that didn't break up too much, but some of the short stories were really, really poignant, really vivid in their description of characters, of their feelings, of their heritage, of the locations, you know, the reserves and stuff like that. And it was, yeah, I thought it was really, really beautiful. I think I would want to buy myself a copy because it was that good, but also so I could actually take it in into like a different form. So I think that would be really lovely. So I actually really recommend it, but I will definitely be giving it a reread at some point. Then we fall into real physical books, and we kind of stay in the same vein. The first one I read was Bleuets et Abricots, Blueberries and Apricots by Natasha Kanapé Fontaine. She's a First Nation, so Indigenous writer from Quebec, so she wrote in French, and this title has been translated, so Blueberry and Apricots can be found. She has quite a few different poetry collections that can be found in English as well, so I really recommend it. This is a very short poetry collection. It was really beautiful. My mum sent it over from Canada, and I actually, just before this arrived, had listened to a talk from the writer. I think she's my age, and I thought it was really beautiful to see someone, I think she's from the north of Quebec, and to see how much input in the artistic world she's had, and into also the different communities of First Nations and Indigenous people who live across the world as well. And it was very interesting to hear her perspective on activism, but also like on how art basically can bring that across. And yeah, I think this to me really opened my eyes. It does talk again, a bit like the previous book, kind of about decolonization, or like a decolonial look at current society, at heritage, at what has been lost as well, which I think is really important. From, you know, my mom's family is kind of French Canadian, so obviously came as settlers a long time ago, and I think it's really important to kind of see those perspectives and see those lives and respect it and just learn more about it, you know. I think that's so important. So we continue with another Quebec book. So this is Man by Kim Thuy. Thuy is actually a Vietnamese writer who now lives in Canada. She came as a refugee when she was little. And a lot of her books, this isn't the first one of her books that I've read, a lot of her books have that kind of experience throughout. And then, you know, talking a lot sometimes about settling into Quebec. My father was a refugee, so this is something that is kind of a bit closer to my heart, and I guess I'm an immigrant now, so a lot of perspectives there. And she is an excellent writer. This book and a few of her other books have been translated in English, so I would definitely recommend looking into it. They've won loads of awards as well, so she's excellent. And this book particularly actually is about a Vietnamese woman who becomes a refugee in Quebec and decides to kind of bring Vietnamese food and I guess mix it into Quebec food as well and bring it to the people in Quebec. And this is really interesting because when I was doing my research for this video, I found out that Kim Thuy actually had a restaurant and she did cook Vietnamese cuisine to bring it, you know, to the people in Montreal. So clearly this is from, you know, a bit of a more personal experience, but it is still fiction. And it is beautiful the way it talks about food and belonging and love as well, because it's about basically a family and a mother, which is a bit like the play on the word. And yeah, it's really beautifully written. I recommend looking into her books in English especially if you're in Canada. Very good. Then we have The Mermaid of Black Conch by Monique Roffey. This book kind of came to my attention because it was shortlisted for an award and loads of people were talking about it, and so I just picked it up, especially because I was looking into more kind of Latin American literature, and this is from the Caribbeans. It was amazing. The first half of the book was okay, I enjoyed it, it's good. It's about this man, he's a fisherman in an island in the Caribbean, and he kind of comes upon a mermaid. And from there, yeah, the beginning is a bit just normal, it's a good story, and then it turns into even better, and the ending for me was amazing, and just it made this whole book to me be a 5 out of 5 read. It was beautiful. It had a lot of talks as well about kind of politics and race and colonialism and kind of all the heritage that is still kind of active, because this is over 2 different story timelines. And as well, so it's not really a spoiler, but at the beginning of the book, the mermaid gets caught by white fishermen who have come from the US, and they're really intent on her belonging to them. And it did occur to me until the very end, when they kept going on and on about the fact that they said that she was theirs, how that had to do as well with the fact that the other kind of main character is a black man. And you know, the parallel between the way obviously that a lot of black people from Africa were brought to the Caribbean via slavery, and how they were owned by white people, and the parallel with her being caught from the sea. And yeah, it was amazing. I don't even have words to kind of explain to you, but I'm very, very enthusiastic about it. I really highly recommend it. If you're looking into good Caribbean literature that is contemporary, I think this is an excellent choice, especially if you like a bit of a more like a mystical, because of the mermaid and the legends that kind of come and the curses that are into the story. So I really recommend it. This was one of my favorite reads of the month. Another French book, this is actually, well, French, this is actually Amélie Nothomb is from Belgium. So this is called Les Combustibles. It has been translated, so it's called Human Rites in English. This is a short play with only 3 characters. It's a very quick read, obviously. It was bizarre, and it was a bit snobby, and I had to Google loads of stuff that they were talking about, because they talk about literature. So basically, I think they're literature professor and students, and they're stuck in a war zone, and they're basically thinking about starting to burn books as a way to warm up. And I guess they want to decide which books to burn first and which books aren't worth burning or worth remembering. And it was very interesting concept. I don't think I knew any of the books that they mentioned in this, so that kind of tells you the level. But I enjoyed it. It was good, and I would go see this play. Finally, we have my last book of the month, which was Girls of Riyadh, sorry, by Raja al-Sanea. It was actually translated from the Arabic by al-Sanea herself, as well as Marilyn Booth. And yeah, I think I finished it like just the night of, the 30th of April. This was for my year of translation, so April was in Arabia, so I picked up a book from the Arabian Peninsula. And this was really good. I think it was maybe one of my first reads from that region. And I'd heard a lot of talk about this book when I was researching to buy it, and I wasn't sure. And it's kind of trying to be Sex in the City of Saudi Arabia. And that's weird because I feel like it's kind of clashing in a lot of ways. But I feel like that's acknowledged a lot in the book. So there's a narrator, and she's writing about her 4 friends. There's like these rumors that potentially she's one of the 4 friends. It's unclear. I don't really mind it. I like that the narration was very, very self-aware of the different kind of women and men and just people that populate Saudi Arabia. Obviously the extremely religious, to the people that feel oppressed, and the people that want to escape or stay. And it's just, I think this really covered like a wide range of faiths and types of people just generally as well. So the 4 main women have all very different relationships, so it kind of goes a lot on, we see them going to be married, so them kind of dating or courting and then getting potentially signing a marriage contract, to actually being married, to having babies. And there's a lot in this, and obviously there's been a lot of criticism about this not really representing Saudi Arabia. Obviously I don't know anyone from there, and I am not from there, and I've never been there, so I can't really speak for that. But to me, this is fiction. So, this is a window into Saudi Arabia. It is not a full portrait, obviously. Obviously it was written by a woman from Saudi Arabia, so I feel like already there's a little bit of trust there, I find. But it is, as I said, fiction, so it's to be taken with a grain of salt. I enjoyed it. I wasn't too sure about the translation sometimes, and when I realized that the author, who now lives in America, so clearly she speaks English perfectly fine, but for me the English translation was sometimes bizarre. So at times it was really beautiful, poetic, literally I was making notes of some sentences, it was beautiful. And sometimes it was really awkward and clumsy and clunky. And I don't know if it's just because potentially Arabic is just harder to translate than, you know, from like French or Spanish. But I was kind of aware that this was translation. So yeah. But I still would recommend it, especially if you're kind of looking for a light read. There's nothing really in this. Actually, that's not true. I was just gonna say, I mentioned there's some racism in this that I was really weirded out about. And this includes racism obviously toward the women in the book. Also racism like between the different regions of Saudi Arabia. This kind of seemed to be a lot of prejudices and stuff. But also there's actually some anti-Asian kind of racism in this at some point when they're in the US, which kind of was really jarring to me. To be fair, the character that expresses it is, for me, the worst character. So I'm not sure if there was a self-awareness in adding that in there, but I didn't particularly like that. So I think that's my one trigger warning, is that there is some racism that that's the one part that I didn't like. The rest of it was kind of a nice fun read about 4 women who are kind of, you know, growing up and getting to grasp with their careers and their lives and hoping to marry and stuff like that. It is obviously also extremely heteronormative, obviously. I mean, it's Saudi Arabia, so I don't think it deserves like that much of a warning about that, but it is extremely heteronormative. So yeah, that's my review of Girls of Riyadh. So these were all of the books that I read in April, all 13 of them. I hope you enjoyed my reviews and my thoughts. I definitely enjoyed reading throughout the month. I think there's quite a good assortment of things out there. And I'm into May now and kind of enjoying that as well, this experience. Please tell me, you know, if you've read any of the books that I mentioned. I would love to know what you thought about them. And please like, you know, leave a comment, subscribe, and hey, see you back.